Okay, well, thanks very much for coming. Like, I work for a company called Property Start, where we help people getting planning permits for their multi-unit developments. And Tim Hine, who's our general manager, is present here as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask him any questions to do with town planning. He can help you with that after the presentation. But what I'm going to talk about today is dealing with the building part of the property development. So first of all, why people would do property development as opposed to just going out and buying investment property. To put it simply is when you buy an investment property, then you have to basically depend or rely on the way the market moves. If that area becomes more desirable, if more people want to live there, and demand outweighs supply, the price will go up, etc. Then you can make a profit. Well, property development is slightly different because you buy, say, a block of land, develop the property, apply your margin, and sell it for a profit. And to put it simply, you can, if you act as a developer, you end up owning that property at a cost. And by that, what I mean is you save on the developer's margin, on the selling cost, and it's quite possible to be able to end up with say a $1 million property by just spending $800,000 and immediately create an equity of $200,000, which then you can use that equity to go on for your next project and quickly build your portfolio rather than relying on the market and see which way it's going to go. So what we've done here is during the seminars, we just go through every step of the property development. Today, I just want to talk about, when it comes to dealing with a builder. And we'll just come up with just 7 quick points, the major points you have to consider when you engage a builder to do the construction side of your property development. So the first thing, and I just want to just backtrack a little bit. I have had a builder's license, so I've been out there, I've been actually building property, so I know what's involved in putting the house together. So it comes from a lot of experience, and also I've developed software for a number of volume builders. So that's just my ideas and my knowledge of what I'm going to present here. So the first thing I like to put to is when you actually engage a builder is make sure it's a volume builder. And by volume builder, I mean a builder that builds more than 50 houses a year. Because simply they have the buying power. Because they build a lot of houses, they get the products cheaper. Plus they got lots of people employed by the company. And if they have any issues, the defects or any problems, they will actually rectify it quite quickly to protect the brand. So if you compare, I'll take, say for example, Metricon, although they're quite large, and a small builder who just does 1 or 2 houses a year, you can see the difference. And Metricon go out of their way to fix the problems, to rectify things, because obviously any negative publicity or anything, it's not in their interest. Whether a small builder can quickly just close the shop and then just move on and do something else. And an interesting thing here, at one of the presentations I was present at, and what they were saying, they were talking about they engaged a builder to build 3 units on the existing land, and the actual builder had a heart attack, and that caused the whole project to be delayed by 6 months. So as a property developer, as an investor, that's a lot of money out of the loss just because you are actually depending on a single individual builder. So what we're saying here, deal with a volume builder, maybe not somebody as large as Metricon or Carlisle or that build thousands of houses, but somebody that builds around 50 houses or plus a year. So the next thing is when you engage the builder to do your multi-unit development is make sure that they actually work to your plans, because a lot of builders will actually build to their plans. So make sure they would actually entertain the idea that the architectural plans that you got approval for, they will actually build to that. Make sure they do produce their own working drawings, because that's quite important. because they have their own engineers, they're all structural engineers and designers. And also make sure that they have a dedicated customer support customer service officer. So whenever you have issues, you call the organization, there's a person who's dedicated to look after your project. So the next thing is, after you say you've identified the building, you're happy with it, visit the sales center, because some of these builders will have a display house, or they might have built something in the past. You can go and have a look at the quality, you can see what it feels like, what the finishes look like. Also, these volume builders will have a sales center where you can go and see the different types of kitchens and the range they offer. And it's quite important that you stick to the range that they offer. Because the minute you walk outside and say, look, I like this kitchen and I like that kitchen, but for my house, I want to put a different kitchen, it causes all sorts of issues for the builder, because they have to go and source it for somebody else, somebody they haven't dealt with before. They have to create, trading terms and all that sort of thing. So it's much better to stick to what they offer. So if this is the range they offer, just make sure you stick within that range. Because the idea is to build the units, sell it for a profit. If you're building your dream house and you want to live there, that's a different proposition. Then you go to a custom builder and you can choose and pick whatever you like. But if you're just doing it just for profit, just to construct something with you either renting or selling, don't get too involved in, I don't like this particular brand, I want something outside. Just stick to what the builder offers. Oops. Stick to whatever the builder offers and just go with what they have. Also make sure that you get some assistance from a color consultant and interior designer consultant. It's quite important, because when you're building a new house, it's quite daunting, when you start choosing colors, the colors of the downpipes, the colors of the roof tiles, the bricks, the internal, the kitchen, you're going to have granite bench tops, what color the walls. So it's always better to have a builder that will have a full-time consultant, either a color consultant or an interior designer consultant, that will assist you with that step. Because when I was doing building, a few years ago, that was the very difficult process for the people, that they just couldn't make up their mind whether they should have a green kitchen or a blue kitchen or whatever. And they were always worried about, is it going to age with time? Is it going to still be, looking, new in years to come? So it's quite important that the builder provides you with that color consultant that can help you with that process, because it's a difficult process. So once you establish that that's the builder you want to deal with, you've been to his house, you've seen the display center, you've seen the range, you're happy with what you're doing, the next question I would ask the builders, how they actually come up with a price. So if you present them with a set of plans, how do they go about estimating it? Because I know for a fact some builders will look at it and just come up with a price. And I've done that before, when I was doing a development, I put it out for tender, and I had prices that would vary from, say, $300,000 up to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. It's the same set of plans, same set of specifications, the same set of block, and I just couldn't work out why there was such a big discrepancy. And at the end I realized that some of these builders, they just come up with a price out of, I don't know, just come up with a high price and just hope that, and on the other scale is builders will underestimate to get the job. They realize that they underquote it and they can't finish it. And it is in your interest to come up, to give the job to a builder that will give you a reasonable price, and insist on them on just employing professional estimators. There's people that do estimating on day in and out. They look at the drawings, they redraw it, and they work out how many bricks is going to go into this house, how many squares of plaster you would need, what's the squares of the roof tiles. And this is a sample of bill of quantities that some of the larger builders would use, like Metricon, Divine, A.V. Jennings, Carlisle Homes. And this is the level they will go down to. They will actually count every brick, every noggin, every piece of timber, and then just have the cost and add the margin and give you the price. So that price is realistic, and you're not going to ever have any surprises. So the next thing I would ask the builder then is how they manage the project, because building a house, there's quite a lot of things happen on a daily basis. Say, if you're doing, say, the brickwork, you have to make sure the bricklayer arrives on time, the cement is there, your bricks are there, the lime is there, your supervisor is there, and it has to be coordinated. And if you just do it willy-nilly, sometimes you drive past some construction site and you see the house is just empty for days and weeks, there's nobody there. It's because it hasn't been organized. So this is a software that I've written for one of the large developers, and it actually gives you day-by-day schedule of what has to happen on that construction. So, and it's available online, so the construction manager can see on day-by-day basis who is going to call, what is going to order, and it's all coordinated. All the purchase orders are sent out to the suppliers, and they just use the technology, because the technology is available, as opposed to builders that just run off their youth. They just drive to Bunnings and buy the bits and pieces, bring it to the site, and back and forward and back and forward, and the project gets delayed. And remember, every week that the project gets delayed, it's just costing you money, because your holding costs, and the quicker it gets done, the quicker it gets finished, the quicker you can put it on the market and just realize your profits. So this is just an example of what one of our large builders will use to monitor the project. So the next thing we have here is, when you deal with a builder, is just find out what sort of client portal would they offer you. Do they have any facilities where you can log in and see where your job is at? Or can they even just email you some of the photographs of what, so this is, again, one of the builders that we deal with. All this information is available online. All the clients can log in and have a look at what stage the building is. So, and you can see the progression as it goes right to the completion, the finished product with the landscaping. So from day one, you can, without actually visiting the site, you can actually see where the house is at and what has been done. And it's very important, because if you say, for example, you look at it and you see an obvious mistake, we can alert the builder and say, look, that's not what I was expecting. Rather than, when it finishes completely and you come back and it causes some issues later. So even if they just send you some emails and the photographs just saying this is where your building is at, this is something that you should ask for. And the last point is, when you're doing your build, is you should insist that the builders do the 3-month maintenance, because after they finish the construction, the house will settle on its foundations, there'll be some little cracks, etc. So usually the builders will come back, do an inspection, and fix all the little bits and pieces, and then hand it over. And it's again, when you're dealing with a volume builder, they usually have a dedicated service manager, and that's his job, is to go from one house to the next house and just make sure that these things are being attended to. If you're dealing with a small builder and an individual person, well, obviously he's not going to have the resources, he's not going to have time to run around town and just fixing little bits and pieces. That's why, going back to my point one, is when you're appointing a builder, make sure they're of substantial value, or substantial builder that build lots of houses. And one of the other important things that I forgot to mention at the beginning, the way the builder works, basically, he has to have some working capital, because say he does the first step of the house, he does the foundation, then he puts in the progress, asks you to pay, he gets paid, then he does the frame, then asks for the payment for that, then does the next stage, and on and on and on. So if there's any delays there, if the bank delays payment, or you're not happy with something, the actual project will stop, because he doesn't have the funds to continue. For him to engage the bricklayers to come in and do the bricklaying, he has to pay the guys before he gets paid. So if it's a single individual small builder, you will always see that the project is just lagging behind, because he's got to wait to get paid to pay. But when you're dealing with larger construction companies. They have overdraft facilities in place, they have, you know, cash flow, they have working capital in place, so they can actually keep going without actually waiting to get paid for every progress claim, which, you know, in return helps you and it helps him. Well, that's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. If you have any questions on any other points, please ask.